Welcome to the UNSECURITY podcast. Each week, Evan and Brad give an inside look at current information security news, breaches, best practices, and other things you should know to improve your information security. Here are your hosts, FRSecure's Evan Francine and Brad Nye.
Hi, UNSECURITY podcast listeners. It's me, Brad Nye. This is episode 49, and it is October 14th. Evan's here too. Say hi, Evan.
Hi, Brad. How are you?
Good. It's been a couple of weeks. We talked the other day, and it's like the M&M Santa commercial. He does exist.
Oh, me?
Yeah. We just haven't seen each other for since probably the last podcast we did together.
Right.
It's been 2 full weeks.
Yeah. And my beard is growing so long, it's actually hitting the microphone right now.
I know. I noticed I was having that. You could feel it. Yours has really gotten long. All right.
It's like that guy that goes off and, just ages over time. I look like, what was that movie, Castaway?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm starting to look like him now.
This has gone off the rails really quick. It's gonna be
Did we have show notes?
Sort of.
When was the last podcast we did together?
It was 47, right?
Oh, so
no.
We're only 2 podcasts away.
Right. Was it 40? Where were you? No, it was when were you in Bulgaria?
No.
Or was that 46?
That was 40. I don't know. But it's only been 2.
Yeah.
Last week it was me and John.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
I was in the San Diego airport getting ready to board.
Oh.
So that was not going to record well.
No.
They don't like you recording podcasts on the airplane.
They don't?
Weird.
Whatever.
So yeah, it's been a couple weeks. You've been having an insane schedule. Mine's been pretty busy. I feel like I've done a lot more traveling than normal, but I definitely can't complain compared to what you guys have been doing. But
we've had a lot of fun though. I mean, we've met honestly some amazing people. Last week I was on the road by myself in Orange County, California. John was in Madison.
Yeah, that's right. You went out there the day after I was there.
Yeah.
I think you were avoiding me.
No. You had to make sure the place was safe. You were like the
King's food tester. Make sure there's no poison there.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. It was good though, man. I met some really good people. On my blog, I write the past week's sort of roadshow. A lot of call outs this week and just, all the cool people that I met, so.
Yeah, it is good. And everything that I've had, talking with people that we don't normally interact with, it sounds like our message is resonating, which is always encouraging.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we are doing something right. People are like, yeah, okay, it makes sense.
Well, yeah, because, some of the companies that I was meeting with last week and people I'd talked to, I've never heard of their companies even. You get so sheltered up here in Minnesota. You go out to California, like, there's this company here. Tell me how you do security. And they're like, and they tell you and you start talking about security and you're like, damn, nice. We're doing it right. I mean, both of us, you are and I am, and it's just cool, so we're looking for partners, looking to help them build better information security practices for, themselves and their clients. It's really cool so far. We
had, last week we hosted Spiceworks user community meetup on Wednesday.
Yeah. How many people came for that?
About 16.
Nice.
I think it was 16.
And they all came here, right?
All came here. And, it was good. We talked, so we started with some incident response and then kind of just went off into just Q&A and questions, and kind of told them what we were doing with the S2 org, and a lot of like, wait, what? You're doing, huh? That's cool. So that was good, but it was good to hear. They had some really good questions, and
good.
It's like, I can bring up an IR slide deck if you guys really want to do that, but let's just talk.
Right. Yeah, I think I was 2 weeks ago it was B-Sides, and last week it was Aisaka, the Orange County chapter, for me. And man, they're just cool people. I mean, I haven't met a single, well, maybe, but they probably just don't come up to me after the talk, Yeah. But I don't think I've met a single jerk. I mean, they've all been super nice.
Yeah. I met with somebody in the insurance industry out in San Diego. I went there and talked for an hour. Like, just didn't realize they were going to be there. We were both there for the same thing, and just started talking. And it was really cool to hear their side of it and how it resonates, and how they're struggling for their customers. So they were really happy to hear what we were doing. And
cool.
So yeah, it makes you feel good.
It does make you feel good. It makes you feel good when you're doing good. You know what I mean? And it makes it all seem worth it. You know, when you're tired and you're just like, I don't feel like getting up.
Right.
Yeah. It's good.
That's good. Yeah. So, with Roadshow, we talked about that a little bit. I will say today, this week is our all hands meeting. Everyone's coming in.
Right.
So that's exciting. I'm
looking people coming from all over the country.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We're growing. We had 22nd in the Fast 50.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which was
awesome.
That was unexpected. I thought we kind of take friendly wagers, right? Nothing changing hands, but I thought right around 30, 33 last year, and it just kept going up. It was, wow.
That's cool.
It's crazy. Think how far we've come. Well,
and it's really good growth, right? I mean, 75%.
Right. For a consulting services company, not, a lot of them are software companies and things like that, where you can, ramp up pretty quickly.
Right.
So.
Well, and I think it'll even get better because, as Security Studio continues to grow and as we continue to, fund moving into other markets and things like that with FRSecure.
Right. Well, I've did some
get fun
back of the napkin math for next year, and we're going to be probably higher.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So
got a great team, man. Honestly, you guys
awesome.
You guys are amazing. From, top to bottom, both sides. I mean, everything is just cool. We don't have a single dickhead who works here.
Well, as I was saying, I was reading that book, and it's the title of the book is The No Asshole Rule. So I don't think I can get in trouble for actually saying the title of the book. But I was talking to somebody, I don't think we talked about this on the podcast, but over the holiday back in September, and just telling them how we don't have any
dickheads.
Right. And he's like, have you read this book? I was like, no. So I read it, and it's an easy read, but it really was like, yeah, that makes sense. Basically, as a company, you make a decision that it doesn't matter how much revenue somebody produces, if they're negative overall impact to the organization and they're bringing other people down and constantly requiring maintenance, it's just not worth it.
It's a cancer, man.
So it's really cool we don't have that here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. Our IR team's coming in, so that'll be nice to give them a little.
What time are they getting here? Are they going to get here while we're recording, do you think?
Probably.
Yeah, so we'll see them.
We'll start trickling in here.
Yeah, and for people who haven't seen pictures of our studio, we record in what's called the fishbowl, right? So it's all glass, and we can see people who walk by, and they'll give us weird looks and try to make us laugh. But I have no sense of humor, so I won't laugh.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, it's cool that the guys and girls that were here on Wednesday were like, what do you guys, is that? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it looks kind of neat. Got the data center racks and ladders and stuff. So
yeah, this would be a crappy data center though, wouldn't it?
It was supposed to be the blinky light one.
Yeah. The one where you show customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose for that, it's not too bad.
No, it's got its own.
No production data.
Thermostat here. So there you go. We could turn that on and drown out everything. All right. So, good things. What the other thing I think really that we can see coming is we're both nerds. So we watch the numbers for the show and kind of watch that grow. But the other way we can really tell that it's starting to get some traction is we're getting a lot more emails, which is awesome.
Right.
So, one last week that came in was how defining information security and policies, but struggling with the term of IT security. And that CompTIA article that's linked in the show notes was, it was an article. Yeah.
Yeah. So the article is titled, what is the difference between IT security and cybersecurity?
And no, you wrote the notes. So you kind of wrote and I was like, I don't know if that article helped with anything.
Right.
Like, I read it this morning. I'm like, maybe I'm not awake yet, but
right.
I mean,
and then if you read some of the comments on that article, it was like, they're like, yeah, you nailed it. Exactly. And I'm like, what the hell? I don't understand what he said.
I know.
But anyway, you can simplify this and it is important. I mean, another part in the article was how important is it really even important that we get these words correct?
Yes.
Absolutely it is, right? Because the people who are making the decisions or the people who are supposed to be making the decisions are confused as hell, and we just keep confusing them.
Right.
Because we keep coming up with new words.
Right. Or the phrases or words that don't have a consistent definition. Right. How are executives or anyone supposed to be making decisions if I say information security and you say it and it has two completely different meanings?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's not a good way to be successful. It goes back to our mission.
Right.
Nobody speaks the same language. And I think this article really
drives it home, doesn't it?
It says even he's writing this and he's still it doesn't really matter. No, yeah, it does.
It certainly does. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. Most meetings, that I go and sit and talk with other security people, they'll use the word, cybersecurity or and I'll ask them, do you mean cybersecurity or are you talking information security?
Right.
They're different, right?
Right.
And they're different on purpose, right? I mean, if you use different words for things, they're going to mean different things.
Right.
So blowing over and saying, it doesn't matter is like, but it does, right? Yeah.
No. And what's interesting is anytime I've talked with anyone and they've kind of gone through, okay, what's information versus cyber? And cyber is about computers, right? Versus information, which is administrative, physical, and technical, and go through it. And they're like,
right.
Like it makes sense.
It's funny how many people, and I've preached it so many times. I even get tired of hearing myself say it. But and that's what so much of this roadshow is about too, right? It's just the fundamentals. It's the basics. Let's talk about the basics. And the reason why I want to talk about the basics is because it's not sexy. It is hard work, but it has to be done.
Right.
If you don't cover the basics, if you don't cover the fundamentals, everything else is just lipstick, right? It doesn't matter.
Well, and, going back to the Spiceworks thing on Wednesday, they said, where do we start? What do we do? What makes a good program? I was like, you can have a great IR plan. You can have a phenomenal document. If you don't have asset management in place, if you don't have, some sort of data classification so you can classify things correctly. If you don't have these fundamentals, who cares?
Right.
Like we're seeing it in IRs where it's like, well, where's this traffic coming from? I don't know. Well, I can't help you. I see malicious traffic on your network and you can't tell me what device is on what port. Well, it's a BYOD.
Okay.
Right. You're like, well, why? What is going on? Like, so yeah, I think like you're right. The fundamentals are what we really are struggling with. And I think it comes back to all this confusion around definitions and what should we be doing? Just simplify.
Yeah, absolutely. Simplify fundamentals. Obviously you still need to be compliant. And that's really what the purpose of the roadshow is getting everybody speaking the same language, getting everybody working the same definitions, getting everybody to focus on the fundamentals. The theory is 90 to 95% of all your risk is in the fundamentals, right? And so, and that's our definition, right? So for the listeners, the definition of information security is managing risk, right? Not eliminating, managing risk to information confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We've all heard of CIA before. using administrative, physical, and technical controls.
Right.
And so, and how that differs from cybersecurity, cyber, the word itself, cyber, if you Google the word cyber, it's of or pertaining to computers.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So that would be a subset that would fit within technical controls
right.
of our definition of information security. And then where IT security comes, it's information technology, right? So that would again refer to technological controls.
Right. And maybe some of the administrative for the documentation process and
Perhaps,
stuff. But yeah, primarily the technical piece.
So in my definition or in my thought process, both IT security, if you used IT security and cybersecurity synonymously, I would just give you a pass on that because they're both technology.
I agree.
But information security is the overarching thing, right?
Right.
That's what we're trying to work
encompassing.
on.
Yeah.
And if people are the most significant risk, you can't treat information security like it's IT security or like it's cybersecurity because you're missing the most significant risks.
Right. Right. Yeah. It doesn't, I mean, we've talked about it. I'm not going to hack a firewall if I can go and sweet talk the receptionist into giving me access, right? Like it's a lot easier to get through a person than it is through technology.
Well, right.
Assuming it's configured properly.
And attackers are running their businesses like it's a business, right? So what's their greatest return on investment? It's sending emails. It's phishing. It's picking up the phone and making a few phone calls. I mean, it's not going to be a guy behind the keyboard, looking for some 0-day exploit in your firewall.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. It's sexy. It'll sell tickets to the next convention or the next, keynote. But at the end of the day, it's the basic crap that you really got to focus on.
Right. And from a technical perspective, those basics include knowing what is open on your firewall, right? Don't give them an open door in. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, those are easy things to do. Focus on, right? The people.
Yeah. Well, and it's sad to see the CompTIA article sort of not answer the question, really skirted the question.
Yeah.
And where it did sort of touch on the answer to the question, it was wrong.
Yeah, it was, well, it felt like the two, like it says, the two diagrams are kind of.
Mm-hmm. They didn't fit.
They're in conflict.
So and then we get wrapped around, because I did have some discussions. The cool thing about the Roadshow is you get so many different discussions with so many different types of security people. And sometimes we get wrapped around the axle on risk, right?
Yeah.
One of the people that I was talking to, they said, well, we stopped even referring to security as risk. And I'm like, okay, well then what do you refer to it as? And he's like, well, we refer to it as measurements, like an index. And I'm like, okay, but what does that index represent?
Right.
And I guess it's sort of risk. Okay.
It's not sort of, it is.
Yeah. I mean, it has to, right? And so
that's interesting.
Yeah. It was an interesting discussion. And then there was another discussion with another CEO of a security consulting company who doesn't care at all about risk. Their whole business is on compliance. Their whole business is just checking the boxes. And it's like, God, and they're making a ton of money doing it. It's like, man. So, yeah. So, I mean, if you really want to, getting everybody to speak the same language, to manage security similarly, right? At least using the same definition. We have a measurement that we use and it works well. Our customers understand it. Our customers buy into it.
Yep. I think that's the biggest challenge a lot of times is, well, what's the risk? How do you explain that to a non-security person or a non-technical person? And that's where I think we've done a good job in creating that method of saying, okay, here's your risk score, right?
Right.
And people go, oh, okay, I get that.
Right. And I had another, really good discussion. All these are good discussions and I respect all the people that, I have them with, but was talking about, quantitative risk analysis. And I was like, okay, not basic, not fundamental. It'd be great if you could ever actually do it, but just, choose a a standard unit of measurement, you know, and I use my fingers a lot, you know, so I'm holding up at some point somewhere in history, somebody chose that this was going to be an inch.
Right. Well,
and then we just applied that same inch everywhere all the time. And so then it became consistent. And so if you do a qualitative, you know, may start off qualitative, but if you keep using that inch everywhere, it sort of starts to become quantitative. And so, anyway.
Well, you know, going back to that company that just does compliance, that we do run into that a lot. Like, well, why are you more expensive than this other company? Well, do you want checkbox compliance or you want to do security properly?
Right.
We're going to focus on security and in the process get you to compliance, or you can do the bare minimum and check the box and hope nothing happens and defend yourself then.
Well, in the way security works, right, is eventually you're going to have to do it right. Eventually, you'll get forced to one way or another. It'll be a breach. It'll be something. And you eventually you'll have to focus on the fundamentals. And the way you build a security program, the most significant cost is in the building of the program, right? So your first 1 or 2 years of building your security program will be the most costly for you. And then it'll taper. Your costs will taper off because you're in maintenance mode.
Right. Now it doesn't stop. No. And I think that's a problem a lot of people see as well, or don't see. Right. Oh, we're a 750. We can kind of sit back and just coast. No.
Right. Yeah.
You still have to go and keep doing things, but.
Well, and you have to maintain for sure all those things that you bought to get to a score like that.
Well, and all the policies you have to continuously review, all the procedures. I mean, it's not like you can just sit back and be done.
Right.
And we've seen those companies too, where their score drops year over year because they hit, hey, we got a 700, we're happy. And then the next year it's like a 680. Like, whoa, why did we backslide?
Right.
Well, you quit doing things. Yeah. Right. It wasn't a priority anymore. So it's never ending.
But in terms of cost, you know, in the long term, doing security right costs you less than compliance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So if you're myopic and a short-term thinker, you may think that checking boxes is cheaper. Right? Because you compare two, you know, solutions right out of the gate. The secure solution is going to be more expensive than the compliance solution, but over time it's going to flip-flop quite a bit and you're going to be kind of screwed. So do it right the first time. That's the way my father taught me to do stuff. Yeah.
It might be a little bit more the first time to do it that way, but it saves you so much. I mean, even not just in security, just in general, right? Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I like that. We should make a diagram at some point.
Yeah. And it's a simple diagram, right? I mean, just put information security as a big circle and then put the other ones inside of it.
There you go. Done.
Yeah.
Jess, get on that.
We're like really
Branded.
Smart. Really smart.
We'll see if they actually listen. Well, no, they're going to send us a diagram and be like, is this what you're talking about?
Right.
All right.
Okay. Well, and to the listener, you know, who sent that sort of question and thing into, you know, the podcast, hopefully we answered your question, right?
Yeah.
In our definition, which we want to be, I mean, at least if you have a better definition, then bring it.
Right.
But that's the definition of security that we use. Information security encompasses all these other parts of security: cybersecurity, IT security, physical security fit within that.
Right. Yep. And I think what I like ours is it's simple. Right? Keep it high level, keep it simple.
It's easy to understand. Right.
So, all right. So on the note of listener emails, we also got one, and you mentioned it in the notes last week.
Yeah, that we were going to cover it this week.
The Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. Should we talk about this, Evan?
Yeah. Yeah, so, why
not? You have the notes in there in the show notes about kind of the highlights of it. Mm-hmm. I did read through it, the 0.4 version, and I was surprisingly impressed.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good.
I was like, I was very skeptical of going, oh, great. No, this is actually pretty good.
Right. Yeah. So, well, it requires that validation. It requires, I mean, it's the same concepts that we had with FIPS 199 and
I think
NIST-SP 800-53, but it's better. And it talks about application.
Yeah, I think it's easier to understand. The maturity levels that they have and the examples of kind of what you're looking for, I think are well thought out.
Yeah.
And again, they're clear. So, and I think a big difference is it doesn't seem to be, it's more like the CSF in its thinking versus the 853 where it's super black and white and gray. There's a little bit more business functionality seems to be built into it.
Well, yeah, because I think even the government, so the implementation, at least the initial implementation of the CMMC is just going to be DoD contractors and suppliers, right?
Right.
And I think the government is starting to sort of figure out that if we want the best solutions that the private sector can afford or the private sector can create for us, we're going to have to make it so they can give it to us, right?
Right.
So we have to be more business friendly in our approach. Just treating everybody like government entities doesn't work. If I'm a 20 employee company, I can't afford to do your.
Well, we've seen it with multiple manufacturing companies that are subcontractors that have to do 800-171.
Right.
And it's almost overbearing, overly burdensome, whatever. Whatever you want to, however you want to put that.
And for the listeners, that's the same as DFARS, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, they come in and they're like all these controls, and it's a manufacturing of a specific part for a specific piece of military. Yes, they've got secret stuff. It's really, there is importance there, but to expect them, a 50-person shop that has 40 of the people on the floor making parts to do the same as a government entity, it's just not realistic.
Well, that's one of the reasons why, because we've been asked we don't do a lot of federal government work, right? And I've never really been interested in it. And people have asked me, well, why not? Because it's a pain in the ass.
Right.
It's so much easier to service, and it can make such a bigger impact on, SMBs or, private, private companies. Why deal with it?
No,
for the small margins, it's just not.
No, and it's very
let Booz Allen, have that business.
Right. Well, and that's you'll see a lot of that compliance focus driven stuff. They're going to do just the minimum to check the boxes because.
Right. So it almost seems like to me, as I was reading to it, because I agreed with you, at least the version .4 looked pretty impressive. And then .6 is coming out next month. And then the final will be January. And that'll be this kind of the same time that I think they'll be starting to enforce it. But it seems like the government actually listened in the development of this. You know what I mean? They listened to what's not working with DFARS and what makes it so difficult for you to do business with the government. And they're like, oh, well, we can do security better by creating these maturity levels and by, you know what I mean? It just seems more business friendly, like you're saying. And the government must have heard that from somebody.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, they probably got a lot of non-compliant of those DFAR reports back and went, okay, something's wrong here. If I'm going to guess the majority of our subcons or sub-subcons, right? Multiple levels down, can't comply with this. Something's wrong. Right.
Yeah. So and they also put together a really nice FAQ, which is linked to in our show notes. It doesn't. So before it was controlled but unclassified information was really what DFARS and things applied to. Here that's not dependent, right? It doesn't matter necessarily if it's controlled unclassified information. It's if you do business with the Department of Defense, you have to do this.
Right.
Which is sort of good. You kind of want defense contractors to have some assurance of some security controls regardless, because the way that everything is connected nowadays, just because you don't have CUI information doesn't mean that you through you somehow they couldn't get to
Right.
that information.
Well, and honestly, I was reading through it and I'm going, I could see us utilizing this.
Oh yeah.
Right. This is DFARS and
Pain.
We do that, but it's a pain.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually something I was like, okay, I could see us doing like the kind of what we do like SOC 2. We're going to do that assessment, that gap assessment for you and help you get to do it. That with the 800, those are just, it's like, it's so prescriptive.
Right. And they simplified, they took the various, or the control standards like, 800-171, 800-53, ISO, and put them all kind of in one sort of easily referenceable standard.
Yeah. Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised. That'll be something to definitely keep an eye on.
Yeah. Yeah. So generally positive. We'll see, how the final version ends out, which again, keep an eye on it. January 2020 is when the version 1, the one that they intend to enforce, is completed.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see because they mentioned the you have to be a 3POW to accredit it and to become that for 800-171 or some of those other, it's a burdensome process. So I think you'll still see that those very few big companies that are your 3POWs, but
well, and I wonder because, they're setting up an entirely, because they just issued the RFI, the 3rd, I think, of October for the accreditation body. Yeah. Which is who will determine how hopefully that all gets handled. Oh, I'm guessing it probably will be, because if they listened enough on this piece, maybe they'll listen enough on that piece too. We'll see. But they should open it up to more participants as well, right? Not make it so rigorous for the assessors. Right. Make
there's not a whole lot of them out there right now.
No, I mean, you can vet an assessor and spot check, quality standards and things like that without making it so darn cumbersome for them too.
Right. Yeah. We've been asked if we would do it. I'm like, for the old, I'm like, the amount of work, it's just not for like FedRAMP and all that. It's not worth it for us.
No. And we make plenty of impact and help tons of companies not being that anyway.
Right. Yep. So, all right. So the next thing we had, and again, driven by listener feedback, was on Twitter. And this was interesting. So it's in, the show notes.
Twitter's fun.
Yeah. It can be. So lots of people, so this is at C0BCHIK. Lots of people whining about empathy and InfoSec this morning.
Yeah, this is what he or she said.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's a he or she. That's the thing about Twitter. You don't necessarily know.
What are you all on the same sensitive mailing list or something? Enabling bad behavior in the name of empathy doesn't make you a good person, makes you a coward. So it goes on around that. And you responded about some truth. And, so I'll let you start with this because I have some thoughts too. But since you actually interacted, I'll let you go with this. But
well, I think for one, I think it was I like when people express their points of view without just say what you mean. You know what I mean? Don't sugarcoat things. Don't worry about being politically correct. Just put it out there. You know what I mean? And so I think it took some guts for him or her. I'm guessing it's probably him, but I don't know. To put that, to put this out there. And I grew up an only child. My dad was a 20-year Marine vet. My mom was a Marine vet. So we had discipline in my house, and I didn't get a lot of emotional sort of support, like, oh, poor Evan, it was like, pick yourself up and get going. Right. And I appreciated that toughness that, I grew up with, and it's come in handy for me, when you're, if there's something that you believe in, you stand up for it. Right. Right. I don't roll over. And it really helps in this job.
Yeah. I think you said it well, that, be honest, but empathy helps. You have to be you have to have it and understand how it works. Like if you're not, you're kind of sociopathic, and that's not good either.
Right.
But yeah, I've so many places and so many times you see the people that are afraid to say something because they're afraid of hurting someone's feelings, or I don't know what it is, but sometimes those things have to be said, and we see it, and unfortunately sometimes it costs people jobs.
Well, right. And I think I
think that's why people are afraid, right? Nobody wants to, most people don't want to intentionally hurt someone else, but occasionally it's like, hey, here's the reality.
Well, and that's it too. I mean, as long as you keep with the truth, it doesn't matter to me. Right. There are ways to express the truth, without purposely, offending somebody. But at the end of the day, if you're offended by the truth, that's your problem.
Right.
It's not mine. And I think, in order for you to be bold enough to say stuff like that, you have to really know what the truth is then, don't you?
Yeah.
And so like with information security, you have to master what your craft enough to where, I will tell you the truth. I mean, and I've had this, on the Roadshow too. I mean, but like the guy that, was all about compliance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was bold enough, and this is a CEO of a company, right? With 100 or so employees, and being bold enough to tell him, I think you're wrong. Well, actually, I know you're wrong.
Right.
So your approach to information security is not helping. It's not helping the cause. It's not helping my cause. It's not, but in order to do that, you have to be confident. Right.
Yeah. Well, and you have to, I think we talk about it. There's an art to telling someone their baby's ugly. Right. I mean, it's kind of the analogy that a lot of times we have to use. Here's the facts, but you'd have to do it in a way that's
right.
Non-accusatory. And,
sure.
Because people go immediately on defense. Well, then you've lost them as well. Right. So I think you're right. I think you got to tell the truth, but you have to be able to use empathy appropriately.
Yeah.
And know when to
use some tact.
Yeah.
But also, when somebody says something, and I think one of the points for the Twitter author too was, or the tweet author is, to have a little thicker skin. If somebody says something that, because I can control how I'm going to behave, right? I can control, being empathetic, but what if somebody else is not?
Right.
What is whining going to do about it?
Well, and
what's complaining going to do about it? Just either ignore it or confront it or what? Run away?
So like a good example, I think, was, we're working incidents and we deploy some tools to help contain, and they started seeing what they considered slowness or performance impacts on some of their devices 6 weeks after deployment. So we hadn't changed anything, and all of a sudden they had some performance issues. But rather than let us know, they just started uninstalling the agent. So told them
unwise,
right, without telling us.
Right.
And we asked the next day, what's going on? Well, it was slowing things down. We couldn't do business. Now I'm empathetic to their need to do business. However, the response was, well, you understand, we just lost by you doing that. We've lost visibility into what's happening. We now have something completely anomalous happening, and we have
in the middle of an incident.
In an incident, and we have no way of contain or control at this point.
Right.
Why did you do this?
Yeah.
I'm empathetic. I understand why they did it. The reasoning, right?
Right.
Well, we got to do business. We can't be down. Well, what is wrong with you? Right? For lack of a better phrase, call them out on it.
Well, and you're going to be more down. Right?
Well, and that's exactly. I said, so
did that even fix their problem?
So
performance issues.
They have multiple problems. It was not related because we were able to push this back out and hasn't had any issues on it since. So, it got their attention, and it became a priority to put it back on. I said, okay, you had some slowness yesterday. We've seen evidence of ransomware in your network. what's the performance impact or your business impact going to be if these get ransomed now?
Right.
Legit question. Got some attention.
Well, when we run into that, I mean, you run into that all the time, right? I mean, the status quo is easy.
Yeah.
Right. Going with the status quo. If my job as a security person is to, I mean, really, I have two jobs. One is to assess risk and consult the company, consult executives on what risk is. And you get pushback all along the way, right? Because you essentially sometimes what you're doing is you're telling the executives that your baby's ugly, right? And they'll say, well, and they'll challenge, and that's fine.
It's their job, right?
Right. And so being able to stand your ground, like, no, this is factual information. I'm sorry if you don't like it. It also helps, though, being a consultant, because, if you want to fire me, you can. Yeah. I will sleep well knowing that I told you the truth. Right.
I did everything I could to help you.
Right.
I can't make you do the right thing.
Yeah. And it seems like most people who whine are discontent for one reason or another. And they're not comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's a lot of insecurity.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, and it takes, I think if you really want to be good at any job, in this job for sure, you have to have thicker skin. You have to be able to kind of roll with the punches. You have to take.
Yeah. Well,
it's a career limiter if you can't do that.
You burn out.
You'll burn out, or you'll just give up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've always said, kind of going along those lines, even back in IT, if you ask me a question or challenge me to my bosses or whoever, either I will have the answer, or I know where to get the answer. If I don't, then I haven't done my job. But I want that challenge. Make sure I'm not missing something. They're looking at it from a different perspective. That's fine. But at the same time, if I give you those answers, you have to accept that this is the truth.
Right.
Right. So there is a kind of a give and take between the two.
Well, and the thing is you said they have to accept that this is the truth, but what if they don't?
Right.
Because how often does that happen? Where they just refuse to accept the truth?
And that's when.
I mean, I'm not going to beat my head against the wall if you refuse to accept the truth.
But I think that's where you start seeing, kind of going back to the mental health, tie that back in. It's where you start seeing the head against the wall and the burnout occurring, where this is what the stats say. This is what the numbers say. And I can't change what's happening. Well,
and if you're good at your job, if you're good at information security and you work in a place where they refuse to accept the truth, my advice has always been just to go out and get another job.
Oh, there's plenty of jobs out there.
Right.
Like, you don't have to be in that position.
There's plenty of jobs out there for some people.
True.
Yeah.
True.
All right. Anyway, so get my advice for anybody who wants to, become an influencer in this industry, for anybody who wants to actually help companies. You're going to have some thick skin, and you need to be polite. You need to be gracious, but tell the truth. Always tell the truth.
Yeah.
Don't ever not tell the truth.
Yeah. Honestly, I think what's helped me is I did theater in high school, right? So you learn how to communicate. Is
that how you say it? Theater? I thought it was theatre.
No, I don't know. Whatever. It's got the little
theatre. No,
I'm not that snobbish about it.
Oh, because it seems more thespianish.
Thespian. Yeah, there you go.
So you were a thespian.
I was.
Excellent.
Actually,
that's awesome.
Won awards about it, which is crazy.
That's really cool, man. Do you have pictures?
Yes.
Awesome. I need to see it.
Yeah, it's some bad ones. Anyway.
That's really cool.
But, looking at it, that really helped, because you have to learn how to communicate and read people and do that. If you don't have that experience and you're struggling, go take learn how to communicate better. Yeah. Right. Take a class, improve yourself. It will absolutely help your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, learning introspection, learning to look in the mirror first. Yeah. Before pointing fingers or attacking other people, certainly helps a lot too.
And kind of one of the things we're doing here is, we've really focused on this as a leadership team is, giving the benefit of the doubt, right? Don't just immediately assume, well, Evan said this because whatever. Well, there's probably a reason behind it. understand what that is before you.
Well, yeah, and go ask. Go
Right.
ask for clarification rather
Right.
than assuming. Yeah, that's a communication thing too.
So
what's another word for thespian? Isn't another word is hypocrite? Isn't it?
I don't know.
I think if you Google
Is it? I don't know.
hypocrite, I'm going to Google that while you
Oh,
go on to
boy.
the next topic.
oh boy,
So I can call you
what
a
did I
hypocrite.
open up? Anyway, all right. So we'll move on to the news stories.
Yeah.
First one is off securityaffairs.co. Alabama hospital chain paid ransom to resume ops after ransomware attack.
I might have gotten that word wrong.
Well, you're an author. You can make things up.
Damn it. It is wrong. I thought hypocrite was like
No.
actor. All right.
No, maybe, I don't know. Hippocratic oath for doctors?
No. It's
I don't know.
hypocrite.
I don't know.
Hmm.
All right.
Maybe we're just trying to be smarter than we are.
It's also really early on a Monday, so we'll
It's true.
blame that. Alabama hospital chain is restored operations after paying ransom requested after crooks infected systems with ransomware. So they got hit with RIAC. Looks like they did recover most, but they were still recovering some non-critical systems. They had to revert to paper files. You know, we talk about it, and ransomware is the easiest thing to recover from. We actually have one of our incidents is they got RIAC'd, and it took a little longer, but they recovered from backup. You know, their backup server got RIAC'd, so they had to build a new one. They had to ingest all their tapes and inventory those and then recover.
Mhm.
But it worked, and they didn't pay a penny.
Well, yeah. Right.
Right. I mean, now they've still got a lot of work to do, and they've got other issues on how it happened, but
Mm-hmm.
it continues to blow my mind that realistically ransomware is one of the easiest things to recover from
Right.
if you do some simple prep.
Well, how long have you been in technology?
I started in 21 years ago.
All right. So 21 years ago, did anybody ever talk to you about backups?
Oh yeah. Right.
Right.
I know. That's what's
It's like here we are in 2019, and we
It's
still
still-
can't get companies to back up their data appropriately.
I don't get it. Well, and now
It goes back to the fundamentals, right? I mean, this is
Yeah.
where we started the show, like fundamentals. Back up your data, protect your backups. Before
Right.
we had to physically protect our backups, right? That's what we primarily thought of because ransomware wasn't really
Right.
a thing then. But now the threat is ransomware. So now it's physically and logically protect your backups.
Which, I mean, unfortunately, it goes back to air gapping or something.
It's
which-
just protection of backup data,
Right.
right? It's the same crap. I mean, here we are because, when I first got started in IT technology, we were preaching backups, right? We did backups a little differently then, but man, they were really, really, really important.
Yeah. I've had.
What we were primarily trying to protect ourselves against back then was, hardware failures. Right?
Yep, exactly. And I've gone through that, and you learn from it. But I don't know.
I've really lost, anybody who is, it's like, I don't know, I've lost patience and empathy for organizations that get hit by ransomware and are unable to restore from backup and or pay ransoms because it's easier.
Right. And I think we're starting to see, and I've talked with several people in the insurance industry where they're starting to
wake up.
Yeah. Push back a little bit. Well, because they're tired of being labeled as the bad guy, right? Which we saw at the Hacks and Hops,
right?
Where there was a big there's some healthy tension between you guys, the insurance and security side of things. But other people that I've talked to said the same thing. They're like, why are we paying out because you didn't do like you don't have a backup, you don't have anything, and we're having to pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right. I mean, is insurance going to pay for my car if I never change the oil?
Right. So I think you're starting to see, I think you'll see some change because insurance companies don't like paying out either. Right.
Well, the thing that, there's illogical arguments, because I heard from one insurance, because, we have relationships with insurance people. And one of them said to me, well, why is this any different than like if your house gets, blown away by a tornado, we pay. I'm like, but you're not paying a criminal. You don't pay a criminal to build my house.
Hey,
again.
if I leave my doors and windows open, and then
and then somebody comes and steals your stuff, right? They may reimburse you for your stuff, but they're not going to pay the criminal,
right? Yeah.
In addition,
right? It would be like
right?
It'd be like, hey, they stole my stuff and they want money, or they lock themselves inside the house, right? That would be probably a better one. Well, you have to pay them to come out so I can get my stuff back.
Well, and that's what
they would never do it.
And when you talk to people about, fundamentals, you talk to because having insurance is a fundamental too.
Yes.
But when you talk to people about other fundamentals, what they'll often say is, oh, we got insurance for that.
Right.
No, you don't use insurance to cover other fundamentals. That's just more lipstick on the pig, right? It's not an either or, it's both.
Right.
I need to have an asset management program. I need to do backups regularly, and I've got insurance.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, it's part of it. Yeah. So for anyone listening, we do have on FRSecure.com under, I think it's resources, there is a ransomware readiness tool that you put together, Evan. It's free. Just go download it and do it and see where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no, do you have to register for it?
Yeah, but
yeah. So
name and email.
We'll spam the crap out of you.
No,
we won't.
No.
Oh,
I hope not. We better not.
Better not. No, that'd be against our mission.
Yeah.
Then do I get to run you over?
I was going to say you get to run someone over your truck.
Yeah. See,
there we go.
I'm waiting for that opportunity.
All right. Next one. This was a good one. This is on GB Hackers. 18 international hackers who steal tens of millions of dollars arrested for ATM skimming attack. This was a really good read. I was interested. That was interesting to see. So it's got kind of what they did. ATM skimming. They'd put the device on, collect it later, get all the information. That's pretty standard at this point. But the list of the defendants, their ages, where they reside, and their nationality. I thought that was an interesting mix of backgrounds.
A lot of Romanians. It's Romania and U.S. are the two primary citizenships or nationalities.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. And then, most of them were living, there's a couple in Mexico and Italy, but most of them were in, Florida and New York. Some Nashville, Tennessee, and Russellville, Arkansas, which seemed kind of random, but you got two people out of Russellville. Anyway, so that was interesting to see. I didn't have a chance to read the actual complaints and stuff, but I'm sure that that would be a really interesting read. But,
well, yeah, I like reading, some of these complaints. This one will be interesting because, they basically broke a whole ring, right? Mm-hmm. This was a criminal ring of ATM skimmers.
And the ages were all over the place.
So that also explains why they're geographically dispersed, because their attack was geographically dispersed.
Right.
But the nationalities between, the people, it's Romania and United States. One person from Greece. Yeah. They probably got lost.
Yeah. Well, and you look at the names and the kind of the I don't know what the right word is for when you look at the structure of the last names and stuff and kind of the genealogy, you can definitely see some
Eastern European, Southeastern European kind of things. Yeah.
Even the ones that were here in the U.S. So anyway, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Bust the hackers.
Right. All right. Last one, helpnetsecurity.com. Consumers concerned about connected home privacy. Still few implement safety practices. Yes. I read that and went, thank you. But it was well done. I liked it. It kind of reinforces what I've seen on a much lower scale, talking with parents at the schools and doing those types of things, where they're like, one of it said most 57% of Americans, 61% of Canadians said they had not changed their router password or did not know if it had ever been changed since install. Well, I can tell you from personal experience, when I talk about this, they're like, I don't even know how to do that.
Right.
It's not that they don't want to do the right thing. They don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but there's not good resources out there to teach them either.
Well, and at some point you have to put, yes, we're trying to do better. We're trying to tell them better. We're trying to teach them better, but they also seem disinterested, far too often.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's unknown. It's scary, and
well, fine.
It works, right?
Yeah.
Like not defending them, but it's kind of the mindset.
Well, and I think they just haven't, and they also haven't suffered really any consequences, right? I mean, what are the consequences of a privacy breach for you?
Well,
you don't really know.
Well, you're starting to see, I think what you'll see is more of these stories where we see the hackers took over the camera system and were talking, and right, we've talked about that one a couple months ago.
Yeah.
I think as you see more of that, that's what it's going to take.
I think what it's going to take is more safety issues. I think it's going to take, what kids are doing and how kids are being, and we just started sort of cracking down with our own 14-year-old daughter in, really restricting what she can do, and that was based on some conversations I've had with other people. Right. And what's been happening to their children.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. My daughter's 13. So
I mean,
I'm with you.
You have to start bridging that gap. Like our parents, rather than just being completely ignorant. Oh, it works.
Right.
Yes, it works. But is it safe?
Right.
No, it's not safe. If you can't answer that question with any sense of like certainty,
right,
it's not safe. It's just not.
And here's what's crazy. So kind of a personal story, but I think it kind of fits in. My daughter was looking, the older 13-year-old was looking for cartoon characters for something, for some project or something. So she searched famous cartoon characters, mm-hmm. and a lot of them are like the humanization of like Homer Simpson and stuff, like if he was a human and some of that. And it's pretty creepy. And she was like, what? Why is this showing up? Why isn't Safe Search stopping this stuff? And I'm like, no, it's on. And this is what's getting, she's like, what's out there? And I'm like, that's why. And she's mm-hmm. like, okay. It kind of clicked for her mm-hmm. that there's some really messed up stuff. And that's what she saw was, I mean, honestly, it was pretty benign, right? Yeah. I mean, it's just what Homer would look like if he was a person based on proportions. Right. But I think that really clicked with her. Like, okay, here's this. Okay, that's why Dad does all these things. And mm-hmm. and the other daughter was there and was like, okay, like, and that one, I'm so glad that it was, mm-hmm. Innocent as it were. Versus, there's a reason we say to do these things. And she kind of was like, I get it.
Right. Well, and children. Whatever you think children are doing, if they're unsupervised mm-hmm. on their phones or mobile devices, whatever you think they're doing, it's worse than that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So just know that as a parent, for anybody who's listening who's a parent, if you haven't had a discussion with your child about what they're doing, and even if you have controls in place and you think that those are effective, yep. They're kids. They get around them.
Oh, yeah. No, you're not going to control.
I have a friend of mine who his daughter started sort of you've heard of the love languages before, mm-hmm. right? Her love language is words of affirmation, okay. right? And so if you told her you look pretty today, would make her feel right? really good. And so she had her Instagram and Snapchat sort mm-hmm. of associated with each other. And one thing led to another, and people found her, right? That made her feel good, right? Which is normal, right? But then they took advantage of it, yeah. And then she started sending bad pictures, right? Yeah. And this is a child who can't even drive yet.
That's
right, and this continues on, and then they find out about it, and so they take her phone away.
Well, it's not going to stop.
Well, the people that she was hanging out with at school went and got her a new phone.
Wow.
Right. So mom and dad have the phone from, Verizon, AT&T,
Right.
whoever the hell that phone is. And she goes out and gets another phone, kind of I don't know if it's a burner phone or if she signed up for a whole new account or what, but this happened 3 times.
Oh my gosh. See, so one of the big things we talk about, or that I talk about with parents, is it's not about punishment. It's communication and education, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. You may not understand it, but if you communicate with your kids and explain and talk to them and have a level of trust, and it's easier said than done. I totally understand that, but you got to start, right? If you just immediately go to punishment and don't explain why or whatever, that's what's going to happen. Kids just find ways.
Well, and it's not punishment, right? I explained to my daughter, my job is to love you and protect you, and you know what I mean?
Right. But I'm saying from the kid's perspective, it's punishment, right?
No, it really didn't seem like punishment when I talked to her.
Oh, no, for the other one, right?
For her.
Her friend or whoever that
went so far because there was ignorance from the kind of the beginning.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
When you have your child out there already trying to get other phones, there's an addiction problem now.
Oh, absolutely. But that's where that communication and education and understanding come in versus, right? If you do that, it's the tighter you grab you hold the sand, the more that slips through, right? You have to.
Well, that had gotten so far where you had to have an intervention and actually remove her.
Wow.
I mean, it got bad.
That's not good.
So, I mean, but to prevent that stuff, right? Like you're saying, have a dialogue with your child before it gets that bad.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Don't wait.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to get across with a lot of parents is because all these things are related, right? If you think that safety and privacy and security are not related topics, they are, right? They're all about control of, controls and vulnerabilities and threats and risk.
And even if you talk to your kids, like I know I've had the conversation with my daughters many times, I still continue it. It's not a once and done. They're going to do things that they don't realize because they're kids.
Right.
Anyway. All right. So we're now seeing all the people start trickling in. So we should probably, that is indicator it's time to wrap it up.
Is it?
I think so.
All right.
All right. So episode 49 is a wrap.
It is. I go to Chicago today and Dallas by the end of the week.
I'm here all week. I'm so excited.
80 degrees in Dallas.
That's going to be nice. Yeah, it was snowy and gross all weekend. All right. Like many of you listening, we do have another busy week ahead. So thank you to all our loyal listeners. Thank you for the tips and the feedback. Please keep sending it. Email at unsecurity@protonmail.com, or you can socialize with us on Twitter. I'm at Brad Nye, and Evan is at Evan Francine and is far more active. But I do actually read it. I just never remember to post.
So antisocial.
I am. And also you can follow Security Studio at Security Studio for and the hashtag let me try that again. Hashtag S2 Roadshow.
Yeah.
See what's going on with Evan and John.
And barbecue reviews. Have you seen the barbecue reviews?
Yes.
We've got like 6 of them so far.
I did not post my 24-ounce porterhouse that I had. I didn't want to make you too jealous.
No. I'll just come over. I'll just show up at your house. I know where you live.
Yeah, I didn't eat for like 2 days. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we'll talk next week.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's UNSECURITY@protonmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.